Okay. The Public Service Commission is it's an independent regulatory agency. We have 3 commissioners, a staff of little more than 70 people, and the PSC serves a function that is akin to a judicial function, in that, especially in a rate case, in any case where decisions are based on the evidence that's presented to us, to the commissioners during the proceedings. We regulate about 1,100 utilities. The bulk of those are small water systems. We also regulate natural gas distribution systems and interstate pipelines, and electric utilities, investor-owned and co-ops. However, we don't regulate those utilities, the co-ops that are served by the Tennessee Valley Authority, nor do we regulate municipal utilities, except for gas pipeline safety. A little bit about the rate making, and this is at a very high level because it's a much more involved process than what we have on this screen, but it is a legal process. It is foundationally state statutes, and then regulations that we promulgate in furtherance of those statutes. And then legal principles derived from the application of statutes and regulations. According to state statutes, our rates must be fair, just, and reasonable. Utilities are allowed through rates to recover their costs of serving customers, plus the ability to earn a reasonable rate of return on capital investments. What that means for investor-owned utilities is they're entitled to an opportunity to earn a rate of return on equity. And then for the co-ops, rates adequate enough to meet lender requirements and also to maintain financial stability. Per statute, there is a timetable for a rate case. Utilities file a 30-day notice. They file that with the commission. And they also provide a public notice to the customers when they file that notice of intent. And then the clock starts when an application is deemed to be complete. Rates do not take effect for 30 days. And typically, as we hear, the PSC imposes a suspension period of 5 or 6 months, depending on the nature of the case. And a case has to be completed within 10 months. And then there's a 23 days for a rehearing request. Once a final order has been made. As I mentioned before, a rate case is a legal process, and part of that is interveners for statute. The Office of Attorney General is the statutory representative of ratepayers, and then other interveners. They must show that they represent a unique interest and will contribute evidence that otherwise not be brought before the PSC. If they're granted the opportunity to intervene, then they participate in the formal hearing and have the opportunity for testimony, discovery, and cross-examination. This is the public meeting as opposed to the public hearing in the LG&E rate case, which will begin April 26th. And public comments, we accept comments throughout the pendency of a rate case, and those public comments become part of the record, and they are viewable on our webpage. Part of the rate making process is, and again, this is a very high level. It's not into any degree of detail. We do have a presentation on our website that goes into more detail about the process. So it's a two-stage process, determining the revenue requirement, which is to determine the base rates. And then the second phase, or the second part of that process, is the rate allocation. um, including allocation amongst the customer classes, residential, commercial, industrial. And also part of that rate allocation includes fixed and a monthly charge and variable costs. Skip a little bit. Just at another high level, these are some of the items that are included in LG&E KU application, including their request for a revenue increase, request for a certificate of public convenience and necessity for a deployment of an advanced metering infrastructure system. Also included in their proposal is a change in the net metering for customers who would take service after the effective date of a decision in this proceeding. The legislation in 2019 that changed the statutes. Existing customers have 25-year period where they're not affected by the changes in that 2019 legislation. The interveners in the case are LG&E and KU. They're the same except for if the local considerations you have for LG&E, the Metropolitan Housing Corporation and the city of Louisville, and for KU, you have Lexington Taylor, the county government, and Mountain Association. So those are the differences in the interveners in this case. So our next steps, as I mentioned, we have a hearing starting April 26th. We also have another public meeting next week on April 20th. And the hearings and the public meetings are virtual and can be viewed on our YouTube link that's available on our website. If you would like an opportunity to present or provide written comments and you haven't had a chance to do so, the address is here. It's psc.info@ky.gov. And I am going to wrap up and turn it over to the beginning of the formal public comment process. Chairman Schmidt will be presiding tonight. And we thank you for being here.
Okay, this is the Kentucky Public Service Commission public meeting for Louisville Gas and Electric, case number 2020-00350, and Kentucky Utilities, case number 2020-00349. My name is Michael Schmidt. I'm chairman of the Kentucky Public Service Commission, and this meeting is being recorded for the benefit of the public, for the record in this case, and in order for the other two commissioners, neither of whom is present this evening, to review and consider your comments. As indicated in the previous session, during the pendency of this case, we have been receiving written public comments that are in the record for any of you to review if you'd like, or you can supplement whatever you might say this evening, or if you think of anything else, by sending it to the Public Service Commission, and it will become a part of the record in the case. We are here today to take public comments in the rate case of LG&E 2020-350 and Kentucky Utilities 2020-349. To reiterate the point made during the overview, the role and obligation of the Public Service Commission is to ensure that rates are fair, just, and reasonable. We understand in any rate case proceeding that there are strong feelings and opinions. We ask that you provide your comments today, that when you do, that you're respectful and also mindful of the time limit for each speaker. We are here to listen. Louisville Gas and Electric and Kentucky Utilities are not present during the public comment meetings, and neither are the intervenors in the cases. The utilities and the other parties have the opportunity to make their case during the pendency of this case, which is week after next. This is an opportunity for customers of the utilities and the public in general to state their positions, concerns, and provide the Commission comments for its consideration. Again, the Commission is here to listen. During today's comment session, I will not be answering questions. The Commission is the fact finder and decision maker in this case, and as such, the Commissioners are unable to comment or speak to the process or substance of the pending applications. Nevertheless, questions you raise during your comments may well be of assistance to the Commission and its staff in adjudicating this matter. If you have questions for the utilities or the other parties to the case, you may ask them these questions during the public meeting with the anticipation that those entities can later convey an appropriate answer outside of the public meeting. Contact information for the companies can be received by calling the Kentucky Public Service Commission and speaking to our staff at this phone number, 502-564-3940. Once again, that's area code 502-564-3940. Given the number of participants that have initially indicated their interest in providing comments this evening, we will be limiting the length of comments to 5 minutes. That's the time limit we've always had during public sessions when we do those, have these comments in person. It looks like we have at least 20 people who have signed up to speak, so that ought to take us about 2 hours and 40 minutes to complete. And after that time, there may be someone else who might have something to say who hasn't signed in. We will let you know when you have 1 minute remaining left in your time. As always, written comments may be made to the Commission at any time during consideration of the case, and must include your name, address, and state the case number so that it will go into the right file. When you speak, please provide your name and address prior to your questions and comments. We will now begin taking comments. The first person to have signed up is Kimberly Rummage. Ms. Rummage, I see that you're here. If you'd like to unmute your phone, provide your name and address, and then proceed with your comments.
Good afternoon. My name is Kimberly Rummage, and unfortunately I would not like to provide or disclose my address, as Governor Beshear is very aware that LG&E admitted in court documents that LG&E admitted to targeting and placing landowners along with citizens under extreme distress and intimidation, and has shown opposition to the proposed pipeline. However, I would still like to be able to speak today, as I'm a 5th-generation family farm and landowner currently being condemned by LG&E for the proposed pipeline. And that's not what I'm here to speak on today, but hope to have your full-blown attention, no pun intended. I would like to touch briefly on the Jim Beam proposed pipeline, as I have direct knowledge and documentation that will link the pipeline to this exact rate case that's being presented to the Kentucky Public Service Commission today. In April 2019, the Rummage family met with LG&E Senior in-house corporate attorney, Jim Demas, LG&E real estate right-of-way, Jim Holderman, LG&E Senior, or LG&E contractor, Scott Slidell, and Stoll Keenan outside legal counsel representing LG&E, Monica Braun. I would like to play an audio clip from that April 2019 meeting. This 28-second clip will explain why the Jim Beam Bullitt County proposed pipeline is a dominating factor in this rate case. Here's that audio.
Does not, we don't mark up the gas we sell. Now, you're going to make money off of it. Whenever we build this pipeline, you're going to make money off of it. Whenever we build it, we will earn a return on the money we invest in the pipeline. That's how rates are built. Is that utility builds a structure, puts that money into the ground, and over years earns that money back in rates. It's not your grant.
You just heard the words of Jim Demas, LG&E Senior Corporate Attorney, state in audio. Utility builds a structure, puts money in the ground, and earns money back in rates. That's how rates are built. And if you're unclear why that's an important factor in this rate case, I was notified through an intervener in this exact rate case that Lonnie Villar, Chief Operating Officer for Louisville Gas and Electric, sworn under oath and testified just days ago to the Kentucky Public Service Commission that the Jim Beam Bullitt County pipeline would not be a contributing factor to increase the rates of PPL ratepayers. And since government agencies and the Kentucky Public Service Commission seems to take LG&E for their word, I would ask that the Kentucky Public Service Commission take the word of LG&E when they thought no one important was listening, to take in consideration how this $74+ million pipeline project, the pipeline project that Jim Beam did not want to pay for, that's recorded and documented in court documents, that the pipeline that LG&E and Jim Beam expects ratepayers to fund, and how this rate increase will impact the hardworking Kentuckians spanning across 100 counties, Kentuckians from all demographics across the Commonwealth, who are at a social and economic injustice, Kentuckians who are struggling through financial hardships of a worldwide pandemic, now expected to fit the bill for corporate greed. I would ask that the Kentucky Public Service Commission thoroughly investigate the safety of the Jim Beam Bullitt County proposed pipeline and ask the questions and hopefully receive the answers that this Kentuckian and her family has not been awarded. Ask the answers from Louisville Gas and Electric on the safety concerns of this project, because when asked what to do in the event of an explosion due to the limited resources, our family was told by LG&E real estate right-of-way manager Jim Holderman to run like hell. Here's that 12-second audio from that May 2019 meeting I'd like to play for you all.
In the event of an explosion and everything, what's the guideline? What happens after that? Run like hell.
These statements and these audios show a small glimpse and are important to show the vile tactics used by LG&E to get what they want and to treat how they treat Kentuckians who are at a disadvantage, to take what they want, not what they need, with no consequences, just because the ratepayers will simply just be paid to pay for it. In this case, a pipeline project that is so unsafe and harmful to the environment and those in the pipe and their pathway, that Louisville Gas and Electric still does not have a single permit that has been for this Bullitt County proposed pipeline project. And again, Chief Operating Officer Lonnie Villar testified in court just a few weeks ago that they do still not have a single permit for this project. But again, they expect ratepayers to foot the bill for this project. It's high important to say that PPL, LG&E, and KU are a monopoly here in Kentucky, and Kentuckians have become their prey, ultimately their victims, in the form of ratepayers, landowners, businesses, and the Commonwealth.
Hey, Ms.
So in
Rummage, you
conclusion,
have about a minute left.
I would ask that the Kentucky Public Service Commission stand up for the lower class, the working class, the baby boomers, the ones that are trying to retire, the elderly on fixed income. Stand up for Kentuckians who do not have a voice, and run like hell away from this rate case and the proposed pipeline project to protect those ratepayers and all Kentuckians, and move to dismiss the 3 rate cases that are not fair, just, or reasonable. Thank you for your time and hopefully your true consideration.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rummage. Appreciate your comments. Next is Mr. Elwood Sturdivant. Is Mr. Sturdivant?
Good evening.
Oh, okay, I see you, Mr.
Yes.
Sturdivant. You please state your name.
I'm the Reverend
address,
Elwood Sturdivant.
And then make your comments.
Yes, indeed. I'm the Reverend Elwood Sturdivant, a retired minister. I live at 3712 Trail Ridge Road, Louisville, 40241. I'm an LG&E customer. My wife's a shareholder of PPL, LG&E's parent corporation. Thank you for your giving us the opportunity to make these comments. Today, I want to argue that the requested increase in fixed charges is neither fair nor just because it disproportionately increases the cost of utilities for those who use the least. I also believe the requested change from the current net metering system is at best an attempt to use monopoly power to extend that monopoly power. I spent more than 2 decades involved with a local community ministry. This ministry regularly encountered neighbors seeking emergency assistance as they struggle to pay their utility bills. Kentucky Utilities proudly claim that electricity costs about 20% less here than the national average, but they don't mention the fact that the median Kentucky household income is about 20% less than the national average too. Kentucky also has a higher percentage of people living in poverty than all but 3 states, and that was before the devastation of the pandemic and the related economic downturn. As of last October, LG&E said that the number of customers in arrears on their bills was about double, quote, normal. LG&E would have the information on how things stand currently. So while perhaps it's the case that LG&E needs increased revenue, its proposed regressive increases which shift from payment for energy use to fixed payments irrespective of use should not be allowed. There's an old saying that good fences make good neighbors. The people of Kentucky need a good fence to help make their monopoly utilities into good neighbors. I think that's what this commission is meant to be, a fence that restrains the monopoly power these utilities wield. So I call upon the commission to reject the current rate proposal and to insist instead on a rate structure that reflects the realities of our Kentucky neighbors. Such a rate structure should not be as heavily regressive as the one being proposed and should instead facilitate conservation. I can recall LG&E offering low-cost energy audits and distributing energy-efficient light bulbs in the past, but it seems to have abandoned those neighborly efforts. Now, while Spectrum One News last month said that, quote, overall, Kentucky has suffered an economic downturn not experienced since the Great Depression, close quote, PPL, the parent company of LG&E and KU, is said to have had pre-tax profits of $878 million last year, while it apparently paid no federal taxes for the third year in a row. As this commission was created during the Great Depression, I'm sure it appreciates the need to look not just to the condition of the utilities it regulates, but to the condition of the Kentuckians who are at the mercy of those utilities, but for the metaphorical fence the commission provides. I'm glad that this commission has engaged an independent consultant to deal with the net metering issue, and I hope that that recommendation will recognize the benefits residential solar brings, as well as resilience, such as resiliency, as well as the cost. And I hope it will reflect the need to move away from fossil fuels and into carbon-free power for the sake of all Kentuckians who have suffered too long from the uncompensated burden of the toxins that fossil fuel production has created. And for the sake of the generations to come who will wind up paying the cost for what we do now to our state and to our planet.
You have about a
I
minute
trust
left.
this commission will halt the overreach of LG&E and KU, and I hope it will continue to be that good fence which will make our Kentucky utilities into good neighbors. Thank you again for offering this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Sturdivant. Appreciate your comments. Jesse Rathburn.
Yes, good evening. My name is Jessie Rathburn, and I live at 2440 Holy Cross Road in Loretto, Kentucky. I am here to submit comments tonight as a Kentucky resident and also as an employee of the Sisters of Loretto, as their Earth Education and Advocacy Coordinator, and as president of the board of New Pioneers for a Sustainable Future, a local organization serving Washington, Marion, and Nelson counties. I want to start by telling you a little bit about my personal background. I have only been here in Kentucky for a little over 4 years, but I am deeply dedicated to rural places. I grew up in rural Texas, spent a quick few years in Denver, and then moved out to the mountains in Colorado and thought I would live there for the rest of my life. Unfortunately, my family and I could not afford to live anywhere in Colorado in a way that reflected our values. And so when we were looking for places to live around the country, we chose Kentucky. We chose Kentucky because we loved the community that we saw here. We knew that we could afford to live here in a way where we could grow our own food, where we could build a home with a small ecological footprint in which solar is key, and where we could put down long-term deep roots. Since coming here, we have tried to become as involved in our local community as possible. We have jobs that we love. We've become involved with local organizations. We've fostered 5 children from the local area. We are trying to contribute to building a sustainable future for all Kentuckians. I am concerned about this proposal for a number of reasons. First, it seems to me like these proposals prioritize the profit of utilities over the common good. We are coming out of a time, hopefully coming out of a time where we have seen untold suffering, and now is not the time to increase economic hardship on Kentuckians. These proposals do not reward individuals for striving to live within their means. By raising the basic service charge, no matter how much someone tries to conserve energy use, their bill will increase. And we have seen this since we moved here. Our energy burden here is actually higher than it was for us in Colorado, and we do all we can to minimize our energy usage. But living in an old drafty farmhouse, even when we keep our thermostat at 60 in the winter and at 80 in the summer, it is very hard to cut our energy costs. These proposals also undermine solar, which is crucial to build up right now with what the world needs. We're at a time when we need to focus on large systemic changes and not rely on individuals just to make changes in their own lifestyles. Climate is important, and we need to be moving away from fossil fuels and embracing renewable energies. By decreasing the net metering value by over 75%, as these proposals suggest, that is not fair, nor is it equitable for Kentuckians, and it makes solar out of reach for many local businesses, average families, and many in our communities. In trying to build sustainable communities in rural Kentucky, we need to find ways to encourage residents to stay and to invest long-term in our communities, which means that we need affordable, ecologically sound options. We want to know that we are creating a better future for our children and grandchildren, both economically and ecologically. In moving here from Colorado, we've been dreaming of building our own house for years. We are very close to acquiring the land, and we are starting the process of designing that home. If the net metering system changes and we cannot afford to put solar on our home, that will drastically affect what we have been planning to do, and will make it so that we have to make cuts in other areas in order to still put solar on our home.
You have about a minute left.
Thank you. New Pioneers for a Sustainable Future is a community group that prioritizes sustainability across all sectors, both ecological and economic sustainability. You cannot increase one and ignore the other. As we seek ways to live more lightly on Earth, we have to find ways to raise the standards for everyone. Please understand that solar helps everyone, and before any changes are made, we ask that you take a full evaluation of all the costs and the benefits to develop a just compensation rate. I live on and work on land that the Sisters of Loretto have owned for over 200 years. Their mission is to work for justice and to act for peace, and they have been doing that in this area by caring for Earth and caring for marginalized communities. And they will continue to do that in this space, and ask you to please continue to make solar an affordable option for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Miss Mary Miller.
Thank you, and thank you for having this hearing. My name is Mary Miller. I live at 417 Acres Drive, Wilmore, Kentucky, and I'm speaking to case 202349. Wildfires, melting glaciers, rising sea levels, extreme weather events, air pollution, toxins in our water, decreased populations of pollinators and wildlife, pipeline leaks and explosions, and deforestation are some of the challenges facing our world. I am sure you have all heard the concerns. You might ask what these issues have to do with net metering. The answer is a lot. At this critical time, Kentucky should be considering every action it can to decrease our carbon footprint to offset some of the disasters we face. If our utility companies can use energy produced by solar owners, they can reduce their use of fossil fuels and the need to expand their power plants. In response to the point that non-solar customers are paying for the use of solar energy, the cost is minimal and might save all customers many problems in other areas. In response to the point that most people can't afford solar panels, it is true due to the cost and the laws in our state that make solar leases and power purchase agreements difficult. However, if the people who can afford it invest, the price of solar should continue to decrease. Receiving retail price for the energy their systems produce would increase the incentive. The more solar energy we use, the more we are improving the circumstances of poor communities who are most affected by the pollution created by our utility companies. It is time we considered social justice issues when making decisions about sources of fuel as well as increases in rates. Lastly, paying retail price for solar energy is vital to help the solar industry survive. It makes no sense to take actions that discourage a business that is providing jobs for people in Kentucky and is reducing our carbon footprint. This year, the theme for Earth Day is Restore Our Earth. Continuing to support the solar industry and those who have invested in it are positive steps to start us on our path to restoration. Help Kentucky be a leader in this effort. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And next, Mr. Jason Getzinger.
Hello, I'm Jason Getzinger, 4306 Dalewood Place, Louisville, Kentucky, speaking in regards to Kentucky case number 202000350. Hello, thank you today for receiving my comments in regards to LG&E KU requests for energy rate increases, increased fixed charges, and net metering of solar customers. From this point forward, LG&E KU Utilities will be referred to as their parent company, PPL. Who is PPL? PPL is a multinational corporation which typically rakes in annual revenue of $7.7 billion. PPL's net income has averaged around $1.68 billion over the last 3 years. PPL is currently divesting from their overseas operations and also claims to be repositioning itself as a high-growth, U.S.-focused energy company. PPL's dividends are also impressive, consistently paying over $1 billion to shareholders annually with an average yield of 5.76%, while other utilities in the sector average around 3.42%. PPL has consistently raised their dividend for 2 decades now. Many ominously named hedge funds are some of their biggest shareholders. Ask yourself, where is this money coming from and who is it being redistributed to? Even before the Tax Cut and Jobs Act of 2017, PPL had consistently avoided paying federal taxes. Since the slashing of corporate tax rates, PPL has gone par for their course and has not paid federal taxes. PPL public relations have been on record saying that the Allentown company did not pay federal taxes last year, but said the policy was enacted to encourage investment in the electric power grid, and the company has done that, end quote. One would think that after hearing the proceeding, it might be somewhat odd that PPL is now asking for more monies from their monopolized customer base in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, around $334 million per year. This will be the 6th such ask in the last 12 years for Kentuckians. The only thing consistently presented so far besides PPL's desire to raise customers' bills in the last 2-decade run of consistently raising dividends and the ability to not pay federal taxes. Now, for the 3rd time in 4 years, PPL is asking Kentuckians for more money, more service fees, a higher rate at which to bill, and drastically reduce and make next to worthless solar metering returns to Kentuckians. This is not how Kentucky should move forward. Policy such as that presented by PPL offers next to nothing in incentivizing our slow-rolling transformation to sustainable energy. The increase in fixed charges is something I personally take offense to. Policy written by corporations or government, which disproportionately puts the burden of amassing profits for corporations on the backs of minorities and or poor Kentuckians, is just wrong. We need to call a spade and recognize just what this policy is and who it affects. Policy crafted like the aforementioned has even led to corporations such as Walmart and Kroger to alert the public that such policy will force their hand to raise food and merchandise prices. Policy such as this will be a double whammy of sorts for customers who lived on fixed income. More of their finite resources will be depleted. It should also be noted in a release from the White House regarding American Jobs Plan, In Kentucky, the average low-income family spends 8 to 10% of their income on home energy costs, forcing tough choices between paying energy bills and buying food, medicine, and other essentials. The more I learn about the structure and relationship of PPL, PSC, and Kentuckians, the more I scratch my head in disbelief. PPL has run the capitalist playbook and is protected while operating a regulated monopoly. They get the best of both worlds. I remember reading about times in American history where we, the people, busted up monopolies, and now, seemingly, we are bedfellows with them. The number one interest of PPL is its ominously named shareholders, and Kentuckians only have the PSC as our voice. The PSC is an unelected board of 3 commissioners. In true neoliberal capitalism fashion, the board is chaired by a lawyer who notably served energy companies. The aforementioned is a formula which should equal the definition of recusal. I would like to thank all parties involved for giving me the time to share my thoughts and receive yours as well. Many wonderful ideals and suggestions have presented by fellow Kentuckians, and I'm proud of y'all for such. Kentuckians need to move energy policy in the direction of resilience and independence. The proposed policy from PPL does not take us there. Maybe it's time we as Kentuckians reclaim our resources from the private sector and pull them together so that we Kentuckians share in the profits of good business and policy that does not answer to Wall Street. Thank you all and good day.
Thank you, Mr. Getzinger. Next is Abby Long.
Hi, can you hear me? Can anyone hear me?
Yes, Ms. Long, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry, my voice has gone out, so I apologize in advance. My name is Abby Long. I live at 1251 South Clay Street, Louisville, Kentucky, 40203, and I have comments regarding case number 2020-00350. Please do not raise rates. The for-profit energy companies, along with the state, have strong-armed and lobbied against solar and solar incentives for Kentucky residents for many years. For an energy company to now say that more customers are turning to solar and therefore decreasing their profit sounds like a business problem that should not be kicked to customers. Why do the customers need to bear the cost from poor business planning when LG&E C-suite officers at this utility company rake in millions of dollars every single year? You should not get rewarded handsomely when you plan poorly and do a bad job. The fact that this rate hike is even being considered is abhorrent. If you're going to advocate against solar, which this whole state has, fine, but don't turn businesses into their customers' problems when the customers have had no input. These businesses operate in the best interest of themselves and what fills their pocketbooks instead of serving their customers. What a wild world we live in, where I'm having to write my legislators begging them not to raise a rate on a public utility that everyone needs. I'm disgusted that this is even being considered. A public utility should not even be for profit. Everyone has to have a utility. This utility company is a monopoly. Kentucky is not fair and equitable for all. LG&E should be a co-op where the customers receive dividends and incentives, not shareholders or a CEO who does nothing except lobby against the Earth's best interests. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Next is Christy Collins. And Ms. Collins, you called in, and I note here that if you have trouble speaking or being heard, to press *6 on your phone, which will unmute it.
Hello, my name is Christy Collins. I reside in Bullock County, Kentucky. I'm opposed to both rates cases. I will attempt to not reiterate what's already been previously established by prior participants. The rate increase by Louisville Gas and Electric KU will affect thousands of people, not just a few. This will affect thousands across 100 counties within the Commonwealth. And to put this in perspective, the Commonwealth of Kentucky is only made up of 120 counties. The 100 counties this rate increase will affect is from different socioeconomic statuses. For example, the fixed income, having to literally choose between food, medication, rent, utilities just to survive. The single parent and parents who both are working to provide an income for their children, juggling childcare and school around COVID provisions at their loss of wage to ensure supervision and education for their children. The small businesses, which have already taken a major hit to this pandemic. People suffering from pre-existing medical conditions, ADA, disabilities, COVID long haulers, people who are even having reactions to the vaccine, which have already had a loss of wage due to illness and extra medical expenses. These people are trying to stay afloat and not lose more than what they have already lost. The unemployment, the people that are trying to mitigate the Kentucky's unemployment crisis of chaos. Let's even look at this differently. Let's remove the people factor out from a business perspective. A business common practice is to shove the cost of the rates off onto the consumers. There's an example of this being stated early on by interveners, in this case by Kroger's and Walmart. They stated that the increase would mean an increase on groceries, mercantile, and other products. Inadvertently, the increase of your gas and electric utility by LG&E KU, for consumers, it will increase their bills not only from restaurants, but to necessities. The increase will cause businesses all across the 100 of 120 counties throughout our Commonwealth to raise the cost of products that actually raise more than just the utility bill. And from what? A utility company that was heavily fined last year for poisoning the Ohio River with coal ash, poisoned the main source of drinking water for 4 counties in several cities, including Louisville, Jefferson County metropolitan area, or the utility company that cannot follow basic provisions in order to get environmental permits for a pipeline that will eventually cost ratepayers over $70 million. This pipeline is for a major corporation who's not paying a dime. All these utilities that the increase would be for is for greed, and greed alone. Last year, they did not charge any late fees, disconnections, or reconnection fees for almost a year, and still made over $1 million in profit. To reward LG&E KU and grant them this increase is nothing but insult to injury. All across Kentucky, from working families to the impoverished, to the wealthy, from the blue collars to the business, all across the 100 of 120 counties of Kentucky. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Collins. The next speaker is Zoe Strecker.
Hello. Thank you very much for including us today and allowing us to make comments on this case. My name is Zoe Strecker. I live at 413 Cog Hill Lane in Harrodsburg, Kentucky, and the zip code here is 40330. I'm very pleased that you opened this session by stating that energy rates should be just. Solar energy and all forms of clean renewable energy should be affordable for all people and should be supported by our Commonwealth in every way possible. Renewable energy and an improved grid distribution system provides excellent jobs and helps us all to confront climate change regardless of our financial ability to do so. I speak as someone who's dedicated to confronting climate change in many aspects of my life, and I also speak as someone who has personally invested in renewable energy. My husband and I have just recently, as in this February, installed a large ground-mounted solar array on our property, and it provides all the power for our residential use, and it also provides all the power for our commercial studio use. And we did this at our own expense, and the return on investment that we want and expect is, of course, financial, but also it is to reduce our carbon footprint and no longer contribute to the pollution of air and water and the extraction and processing of fossil fuels, all the destruction that's caused that others here have spoken to today. Those are the returns on investment that I want to make. And I believe that until the large corporate utilities are producing 100% renewable energy in a clean and affordable way, that not only should individual producers like myself and many others should we be paid equally one-to-one commercial retail rates, we should actually be paid more than retail rates, not less. certainly not 20% of the retail rates. Private individuals should be supported in all of our efforts to install clean renewable energy, and especially solar, because we know that that works very well in Kentucky and that we can make much more energy than we can use individually if we have a good site for it. So the more clean energy we produce as a state, as a commonwealth, as a nation, the more justice we produce and the greater health we produce across not only Kentucky, but the entire world. So as you, the Public Service Commission, consider your own goals of finding justice in your rate setting, please raise the amount that is being paid to producers of clean energy. Do not decrease it. Raise it and find grants and ways of supporting people who want to add solar to their homes who don't currently have it, businesses who want to add it, young people who want jobs in the clean energy industry. This should be supported in every way possible. And the Kentuckians I know support this wholeheartedly. I think it's time for the Public Service Commission to be bold and support our desires as a commonwealth. And I do appreciate your time and hope that you all take all of our comments very seriously as you proceed with this case. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Strecker. Next is David Mayhew. Mr. Mayhew, are you with us?
Hello?
Oh, okay. Mr. Mayhew, please state your name and address, and then you may begin your comments.
77 Juniper Drive in Shelbyville, Kentucky. I'm a retired senior and retired here in Kentucky because Kentucky was friendly to seniors and an affordable place to live. That was 10 years ago. As we all know, Social Security does not even come close to covering yearly costs of living increase costs. However, I look to the Public Service Commission to ensure fair rates and reliable service, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak today. With governments pushing clean energy, and utilities have been converting from coal and other polluting sources to such things as solar and wind, there are ample subsidies out there available, yet these utilities turn around and say, oh, we need more money. Well, I kind of wonder about that. It would seem that the power companies would like to nickel and dime us in every way they can. They've always got some kind of a scam going somewhere. The problem is those nickels and dimes add up. And if a rate increase goes into effect, it's forever. And that gets expensive. I don't have a lot to say, but I appreciate listening to all the folks that are more knowledgeable than I, and I thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayhew. Appreciate your comments. Next is Beth Mays. Beth Mays.
Good evening, Chairman Schmidt. My name is Beth Mays, and my business address is 917 Lily Creek Road, Louisville, Kentucky, 40243. Thomas Clay and I represent 5 owners of 22 McDonald's franchise restaurants in Louisville. 5 years ago, these owners hired Steve Marshall, CEO of Giselle Power Solution, to help manage their energy usage and to investigate all power-related issues and damages. He has uncovered significant issues that the Public Service Commission should be aware of in considering LG&E's request for rate increase. A rate increase would not be fair, just, or reasonable, and given time constraints, I'm going to turn it over to Steve at this time.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you, Chairman Schmidt, for your time. Again, my name is Steve Marshall. I represent a number of different McDonald's franchisees as well as some other clients in the Kentucky area. This is regarding LG&E's rate case 2020-00350 and 00349 for KU. Specifically, this has to do with 2 issues. One, rates that are both fair and reasonable, as the PSC is aware, and secondly, safe and reliable service. The 2 issues for summary and to try to do that, we met with LG&E briefly yesterday and were unsuccessful in those meetings. One of the concerns that we have is that through the process of monitoring and going back over years of time for energy usage is the demand charges that are being accumulated over a period of time. And what we've discovered for a number of clients, and the percentages are roughly about 15 to 16% based on clients today, where the demand charges may be the same for month after month after month. Couple of things that raises. One is the demand meter is supposed to be reset on a monthly basis. If it's not, and the demand value stays the same month after month after month, when confronting LG&E, one of the questions that we had was, why do we have to come back? That is, the customer come back to the utility to identify this problem so they then can go back and say, oh, we made a mistake, and the demand values that were the same for a number of months in a row were incorrect, and we need to issue a credit. There are significant issues with respect to demand, with respect to the billing of that demand over a cumulative long period of time. I don't have enough time to get into the specifics and the details. My background, I worked for the Southern Company, worked for the Alabama Power Company, worked for Iowa Electric Light and Power, worked for Alliant Energy. I've been in the industry for a number of years, not only for the utilities, but also as a consultant. The second issue that I have to deal with is the safe and reliable service. That has to do with respect to the voltages that are being provided to my clients. In many cases, those voltages are out of spec high, over and above the voltage requirements within the plus or minus 5% range. That is causing damage to my clients and to their facilities and to their equipment. That is an issue that we also have attempted to address with the utility. Those two issues, again, need to have further consideration by the PSC. One specifically with respect to demand, how it's billed, how it's accumulated over a period of time, and how customers are allowed to go back, and whether or not they should even have to go back to the utility. The utility is supposed to be monitoring that. Secondly, the safe and reliable service. There's a voltage issue that we're finding with a number of our clients. I recently, just as today, had an email from a large commercial client that is a medical facility. The voltages are so far above what the requirements are, they just lost the large majority of their LED lights just today, as well as 2 HVAC systems. At this point, I want to turn it over. I want to try to live within the constraints of the 5 minutes that you've requested. Thank you so much for your time. I do have one franchisee with McDonald's who would like to share a little bit of his personal experience. His name is Mr. Vic Topper.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for taking the time. So I have 6 stores here in Louisville, Kentucky. And just to give you a point of reference, our electric bill is over $5,000 a month per store. So we're paying over $30,000. More than 50% of those bills are in demand form. So yesterday when we met with LG&E, they told us that the meter reader goes out there, presses a button, and resets the demand meter each and every month. Well, I just recently received a bill correcting my demand charge from 3 months prior, increasing it 68%. When I asked LG&E how that's possible, given the fact that they told me that it's reset every single month, they didn't have an answer. They came back with some silly answer that made absolutely no sense, and that's why we're pursuing the case we are here. But with regard to this rate increase, we think there's very big issues with the demand, which is more than 50% of the total bill, and it's something that needs to be looked at on a much, much deeper level prior to offering any sort of a rate increase. Thank you very much for your time. Enjoy it.
Okay, thank you. Right, next is Alex Haye. Mr.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
All right. Well, yeah, first I want to say thank you for this time. Much appreciated. It's always exciting to be participating in government here. So I wanted to start with, I guess I'll start with my name and business address. So my name's Alex Haye. The address is 4965 US 42, Suite 1000, Louisville, Kentucky 40222. I'm talking about the LG&E and KU rate cases 00350 and 00349. So to start off, a little bit about my background. So I actually am the vice president of a solar company that's headquartered in Cincinnati, Ohio, so just over the border. I got my logo shirt on here. I'm actually sitting in Louisville, Kentucky right now. I'm at my brother's house. I have 3 brothers that live in Kentucky, 2 sisters-in-law and 2 nieces. So Kentucky has always been kind of an extension of my home. I lived here for 7 years, 4 of those years in school at Center College in Danville, Kentucky, and 3 of those years in Louisville and Lexington working at a staffing company called Tech Systems, where actually I supported the Administrative Office of the Courts and the Commonwealth Office of Technology, and also Louisville Gas and Electric. So I actually placed a few staff people over there that are still there today. So I really enjoyed my time in Kentucky, and I'm here often. I'm actually going to a wedding of a close friend of mine who lives in Louisville this weekend, so that's why I'm down here now. And really, what brings me here to talk today is just simply that I believe solar and the current rate structure that we currently have in place, that LG&E and KU are trying to change, is what's best for Kentucky, is what's currently in place, not what they're proposing. Right now we have, and let me pull up my notes here real quick. Right now we have over 20 employees in the state of Kentucky, and most of those are people who I met through school and through at University of Kentucky, University of Louisville, and Center College, and various trade schools in the area. We plan on actually doubling that over the next year to employ quite a few more people, and really the way in which these rate proposals will affect us is we'll essentially take that investment and move it to another state. We've looked at other states like South Carolina, Minnesota, Michigan, and actually expanding our footprint in Ohio. And this decision is really going to be very impactful on how we invest in Kentucky moving forward. We actually, with the current rate structure, we think we can grow substantially over the next few years here in Kentucky, but it would just be simple economics that would steer us in a different direction. So that's why we're adamantly against it. Solar itself, when you think about distributed generation versus centralized generation, people ask me all the time, like, hey, are you taking jobs away from utility companies, or do you feel like you're in competition with the utility companies? And the answer is absolutely not. Rooftop solar is, if anything, supplementary. I mean, we're less than 1% renewable energy right now on rooftop solar, and we could grow 100 times the business we are now, employ over 2,000 Kentuckians, and we wouldn't even be putting a dent in the energy market. So when you think about the amount of money that could bring to the state, the amount of really high, well-paying jobs that could bring to the state, I mean, you're talking about exponentially growing and building equity in property owners' homes, giving predictability and reliability on energy rates. We obviously just heard about some of the franchise and business owners in the state that have experienced kind of wild lack of predictability. But with solar, not only do you get that, it's also clean, right? It's clean energy, it's locally produced, and you get to use it in your own home and facility, and then any excess, again, goes back up in the grid and benefits actually LG&E. So for us, where we stand as a company, we're looking at the 4.6 million people that live in Kentucky and the 1.7 million homes that are here. Every one of those could have solar, and you would still need the utility company to be around and to provide the transmission and everything else. So even if we somehow got to 100% adoption, and again, right now we're less than 1%, there would always still be a place for the utility company. And it begs you the question, I think it was mentioned earlier, why would LG&E and KU and PP&L fight this? And why would they not want to support rooftop solar? Why wouldn't they want the help? And really, I think it comes down to, hey, for some reason, if they're thinking it's going to threaten them or whatever it is, it's not in their best interest. It's not in the best interest of the residents of Kentucky to change it right now. I mean, in other parts of the country, they are changing these rules and they're changing these laws. And at their adoption rate for solar, it makes sense for them to do it. But for right now, for Kentucky, they're nowhere near it. If anything, there should be extra incentives and extra push to make sure there's more solar on more rooftops in Kentucky. And again, just speaking from a business owner's perspective and looking at the potential for investment in the surrounding states, and we would hate to put any of our time, investment, effort into any other state, because Kentucky, again, is an extension of my home. I love being here, and I love everything about Kentucky. But if it at the end of the day, it is a business and it does come down to economics. And if other states are doing more, then it's just going to put Kentucky back a little bit. So I hope that the Public Service Commission can come to a reasonable conclusion on this and see that solar is good for the state, and that this proposed rate would really hamper solar investment and jobs. So the last thing I'll leave you with, and I'm not sure if anybody on this call knows this, but solar installer is actually the #1 growing job in America. So if Kentucky wants to really benefit from that and kind of soak that in, the only way to really do that, again, is to protect what we currently have and be looking to increase it and find ways to increase rooftop solar, not to discourage it. So that's all I had. Appreciate the time again. And yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Haye. Amanda Fuller.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Amanda, we can hear you.
Thank you. My name is Amanda Fuller. My address is 800 Goulion Court, Louisville, Kentucky 40204. I am speaking to rate case 2020-00350. Thank you very much to the Public Service Commission for holding this hearing. I went to the Public Service Commission website to find the actual proposal from LG&E and KU, and I appreciate that there is so much information there. I cannot actually find the proposal itself. If that's there, maybe somebody could put a link so that I could actually go and read it. I am reading some analysis and information that I've gotten from other organizations about the request that's coming from the utilities. And I was hoping to read what they proposed because I really wanted to know what is the rate increase for, what is it supposed to pay for, and how do they justify the request? I'm very troubled by the things I heard from Kimberly Rummage, making the connection between the so-called Jim Beam pipeline and all that we have heard about that, and the allegations that there is some connection between the investment that the utility company is trying to make in that pipeline and the high rate increase that they're requesting now from ratepayers. This timing is suspicious, and this is a third request in 4 years. So I'm hoping that the Public Service Commission will fully investigate that and let ratepayers know so that we can understand how LG&E and KU can possibly justify such a high increase request. They're saying that it is for deploying smart meters. I don't know what the benefit is supposed to be for customers for $12 a month almost as a rate increase for the electrical meters. They're also saying that they're trying to pay for charging stations for electric vehicles. If they know that there's demand for electric vehicle charging stations, the users should be paying for those. The people who are going to be using them, they should be financing them in a way that the energy users are paying their share, just like with housing, with residential customers, that users will pay their share. And so that's kind of a theme here that we've heard, is that the rate structure is not one that is fair and just for all different classes of ratepayers. How many of our low-income neighbors are here tonight at this hearing? Many low-income and working-class people cannot come to a 2.5-hour public hearing, whether it's in person or virtual. I want to make sure that you are hearing from the people who are here the impact that this rate increase would have on lower income customers. The companies have designed their increase in a way that hurts low income customers disproportionately, and anyone else who seeks to manage their bills by using less energy. If approved, this change would also ruin the economic value of rooftop solar and choke off a thriving industry, as you just heard from the previous speaker, which is providing living wage jobs in clean energy. The proposed change to solar net metering would reduce the value of solar energy by more than 75%. Right now, solar is helping small businesses, nonprofits, farmers, homeowners to save money and make smart choices and investments for their future. Without the net metering credit, this would be almost impossible for many users. Right now, the Public Service Commission should be making policies that make solar more accessible and affordable, such as third-party ownership, virtual net metering credit transfers, and expansion of energy efficiency programs. stable fixed cost rates, and on-bill financing for residential renewable energy. Now is not the time to be raising energy bills, as you have heard from many of the previous speakers. The energy burden statewide is 3%, but for low-income families, it is much higher. In Jefferson and Fayette counties, the average energy burden for people living at 80% or below of median state income is 8% and 7% respectively, and it's substantially higher for people with the lowest incomes. And an energy burden above 6% is considered unaffordable. In Kentucky, as we know, a statewide moratorium on utility shutoffs ended in October 2020, and less than 3 months later, LG&E and KU have each reported issuing more than 160,000 disconnect notices due to lack of payment. KU is proposing a $9 increase, LG&E is proposing a $4 increase for the disconnections. People are hurting. This is further evidence that this rate increase is completely inappropriate for Kentuckians. The proposals are also unfair from an economic and racial justice perspective. People who are living in areas with high density housing, for example, apartment buildings with multiple units, are essentially subsidizing the utility expenses of those living in more geographically dispersed areas with fewer meters, which tend to be higher income areas and people who are white.
You have about a minute left, Ms. Fuller.
Thank you. The Public Service Commission should not allow the utility companies to pile increases on the basic service charge that customers pay, regardless of how much energy they use. If you just do the math, somebody who lives in an apartment building with 30 units, who's paying almost $12 a month increased fixed service charge, the utility companies are harvesting thousands of dollars a year from one building versus the 4,000 single-family residents in the suburbs, where the people are using a lot of energy, but they're still only paying a $12 a month increase on their bill. Any rate increase should be instead reflected in the energy charge that customers pay per unit of consumption. Good rate design should not unfairly impact low-income customers. Everybody should pay our fair share. Higher energy consumers should pay much more than people who are trying to conserve. Public Service Commission should require LG&E and KU to offer Kentuckians better tools to manage our energy bills. I would encourage you to require the utilities to continue the moratorium on disconnections and offer pay-as-you-save financing options for energy efficiency, along with well-designed energy efficiency programs and financing for renewable energy. Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie Godfrey.
Hi, my name's Debbie Godfrey. I'm at 8302 Tolles Lane in Louisville 40214. And I really, I'm grateful that this hearing is available and loved hearing all of the details of what all of you have researched. My son-in-law is a solar installer, and I'm very concerned about he and his family, his wife, my daughter, and their 3 children. You know, this is effectively going to put him out of residential business in Kentucky. And yeah, he can travel to Indiana. Yeah, he can travel to Ohio. But one of the reasons that he's working his own business is to have time and availability to help take care of his family, which he can do when he is installing residential rooftop units, you know, near our home. And I don't know, it just amazes. I'm blown away, frankly, that the Kentucky utility commissions and whoever else is discouraging solar at a time when our climate is in crisis and our world is the way it is. I just don't get it. I've moved here less than 2 years ago, and you know, came from a place where solar was subsidized, solar was encouraged. The economy of solar was huge. There was competition between solar companies. Here, it is so little. There's so much room for expansion and growth, and it doesn't make any sense to me that fossil fuel companies are concerned that they would be out of business. Just shift the business to something clean and wonderful, and you have an economy that keeps going. It's like you can't keep doing something that doesn't work. And so, speaking to the 2020 350 and 349. speaking to these things, it's like progress, go forward, do something that's good for our world, that's good for our families, that supports. And the other thing that most of you have spoken to also is the fact that all the people that this is going to affect the most with the $12 across the board rate increase are people who can't be here, who aren't going to be here. There's those hundreds of thousands of people that are of low income and don't even know about this, have no education about this, don't even understand it. They're going to be the ones affected. And it's up to us that actually understand these things to protect them and to keep their families safe. I work with families, and families in poverty are at the highest risk. Kentucky has the highest child abuse in the country, and poverty is absolutely tied to child abuse. And increasing rates for people that are already at risk, making their lives even harder, makes absolutely no sense. You can take care of this PSC by not allowing these things to go forward, by encouraging solar energy, solar economy to go forward in Kentucky. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Godfrey. Next is Jake Trubiano.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jake Trubiano. I am, like Alex Haye, I'm also representing Solar is Freedom. Address is 4965 West US Highway 42, Suite 1000, Louisville, Kentucky 40222. And I'm speaking with a specific focus on the dismantling of the current net metering policies that LG&E and KU are proposing. Thank you in advance for taking the time to hear me out. So for context, I am the sales director for Solar is Freedom and oversee all sales operations in Kentucky and Ohio. Solar is Freedom is the largest installer in the state of Kentucky. We currently have 380 residential customers in Kentucky, with nearly 300 of those coming in the last 12 months. As our VP, Alex Haye, previously mentioned, we've significantly increased our employment numbers in Kentucky and are on pace to grow our customer base to nearly 1,000 Kentuckians by the end of 2021, and also doubling our employment numbers, specifically with local Kentucky employees, by the end of 2022. So the reason that solar is growing so fast is very simple. It's because it has a significant positive financial impact on homeowners, both through saving money on their electric bills and also by increasing their home value and their overall equity, so increasing homeowner equity. But it also has a humongous impact on the environment and the future world that the next generation will inevitably inherit. And unfortunately, as many of you guys know, Kentucky is consistently at the very bottom of the list for non-fossil fuel energy production. And Solar is Freedom and many other Kentucky solar installers are working daily from a grassroots approach to change that one home at a time. Just to put the environmental impact into context. So I know Alex previously mentioned that there's 1.7 million homes in Kentucky. We're the largest solar installer in the state of Kentucky, and we only have 380 customers in the state of Kentucky. So to think that we're getting even remotely close to 1%, it's not even it's a needle in a haystack essentially in terms of how many current Kentuckians have solar. But if you just look at the 380 customers that Solar is Freedom has, from an environmental impact standpoint, that will be the equivalent to planting 2.6 million trees or removing 300 million pounds of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So you can imagine how quickly that impact would scale as more and more Kentucky homeowners take advantage of producing their own localized solar energy. And I know that there's been many utility, LG&E and KU have both proposed many solar arrays of their own, and how, hey, we can go solar and we can just keep our ratepayers paying for it. But there's no, I know being just and fair is a big part of this commission, and there's no justness or fairness to limiting only the massive utilities to being able to financially benefit from solar energy. There's also many studies out there that show that strain on the grid from residential solar is only apparent when you get to 10% of all of the homes having solar, is when you actually start to get to significant or noticeable strain on the grid. Again, currently Kentucky has way less than 1% of homes having solar energy. So if anything, this minuscule number of homeowners, obviously that is growing daily, but with that small number, if anything, that's benefiting the grid, right? I've heard a couple of people talk about grid resiliency tonight, and the reality is that when utility companies are at the most stress is when there's the most demand on the grid. We all saw what just happened in Texas, and when there's a ton of demand, the utilities have to fire off peaker plants to meet that demand. When you have local homeowners going solar, the largest point of demand, the peak point of demand in a year for Kentucky is during the summer months when it's absolutely hottest midday. That also just so happens to be the time where you're producing the most solar energy. So when the grids are at their most stress, homeowners with solar are also producing their most energy. So where they're not even just taking themselves off the grid, but they're also taking their energy and spreading it to the neighbors and surrounding properties around them. So
You have about a minute left.
Okay, thank you, sir. But grid resiliency, has been a huge thing in the news lately with Texas. This new rule on net metering for Kentucky would be a tremendous step in the opposite direction for that. As well as that, I know that the people were talking about electric vehicles, overall electrification, and we don't even view ourselves as competition to the grid because electrification is so high in demand right now, and demand is continuing to grow and grow and grow. Obviously, electric vehicles are becoming a huge thing. There's really kind of like, I guess, I know I got to close this up. So just to conclude, allowing Kentuckians to go solar at the current 1-to-1 rate, it is fair, it is just, and it is reasonable because it increases equity for everyday homeowners. It promotes environmental good. It makes our grid more resilient, and it helps sustain the movement towards increasing electricity demand. Thank you guys for your time.
Okay, thank you. Jan Colwell.
Thank you. My name is Jan Colwell. I live at 613 Periwinkle Hill Road in Cadiz, Kentucky. Other speakers have gone over the classism of the rate increase. I just want to talk about solar and wind. Wind is only viable in a small section of eastern Kentucky. I live in western, clearly. So I have solar. Sustainable power is vital. Sustainable power must be encouraged and welcomed by the Commonwealth legislators and the power companies in order to attract forward-looking businesses and residents. Our solar panels were installed in the summer of 2018. Every month, all the electricity that we generated went to the grid. We bought power from Pennyrile or TVA, and we're paid every month for the power we generated, minus a fee of about $25 a month. So they did charge for what we generated. When we got a monthly check for $10, we decided to keep the power we generated. So in the summer of 2019, we had batteries installed to store the power we didn't use. Once the batteries reach capacity, the power generated by our panels goes back to the grid free of charge. So the power companies do not pay for our excess solar production. I can tell you from this fancy little app they installed on my computer, if I can remember my code to get into it. The performance today, I'm 90% self-powered, but I was away from home and my batteries ran over. There was a power spill. There was an energy spill, and all I got was a good sunburn. So we have produced 112% of the energy we use today, meaning 12% went back to the power company free of charge. Over the lifetime of our batteries, we have had a 65% energy offset, meaning we've produced 65%, the other 35% we have purchased or some sort of offset. I would like to have maintained the old meter that we had so that it sort of evened out, and if we produced too much power, We just used it up later on, and it was a trade-off, and that would have been the one-to-one. It didn't happen. They came back and changed out the meter. But solar is where the future is. If we want to maintain our importance as Kentuckians, and if we want to grow as Kentuckians, we really, really need to embrace it, because that's what the future is all about. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Colwell. Greg Zaradnik.
Yes. Yes, hi. Thank you. My name is Greg Zaradnik. I live on Royal Avenue in Louisville, Kentucky, 40204 zip code. And I've spoken to public meetings before, and I was a little late on this one. I apologize. But bottom line, I'm an engineer, and I want to make just one major point. Other people made a lot of other points. I want to ask the Public Service Commission to not allow the fixed monthly cost to increase. But actually, I'd like to ask the Public Service Commission to start working on decreasing the fixed monthly costs. LG&E keeps asking, they keep creeping it up. Every time you have a meeting almost, they keep asking to increase the fixed monthly cost. I would like to ask you to reduce the monthly cost, because that's the only way we're going to ever be sustainable and reduce the carbon footprint and stop global warming. We can go on and on about everything. But if you bought a car and the gas company said, I'm going to charge you a fixed monthly fee for gas and then a little bit for what you use as a rate, we'd all be driving big cars, consume a lot of gas, and we would burn ourselves up. So why do they need? Every business has fixed monthly costs. Every homeowner has fixed monthly costs. Everybody has it. Why does LG&E have to have fixed monthly costs? And why do they have to keep going up? I think they need to go down. It's the only way to help poor people. It's the way to help people that want to make more efficient, the way to help people save money, and the way to help people, the planet. I mean, then you could control what you pay by, you turn a light off, you're not paying for it. But a fixed monthly rate, you're paying whether you have all your lights on or not. So please, if at all possible, can we actually start reducing the monthly rate that we pay and not increasing it every time we have a meeting? Look back every year, they keep asking the same thing. They say they're sustainable, they're not. That just encourages more usage, and more power plants have to be built. So again, I'll summarize, just please reduce the monthly rate. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Andrew Berry. Okay, Mr. Berry, you may begin.
Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, excellent. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on this critical issue. The rate increases will impact over 1 million Kentuckians, with substantial impacts felt by lower income ratepayers and negative impact to Kentucky's necessary transition over to solar energy. These proposed rate increases are part of a recurring cycle. 3 rate increases proposed over the past 5 years, and that continues to mount on the shoulders of ratepayers. Bernheim is concerned about the significant impact from the proposed devaluation of net metering that will slow the energy by homeowners, small businesses, and industry. During this critical decade where we need to be doing everything we can to reduce carbon emissions, and this is a widely internationally agreed upon goal, this undercutting of the solar industry is certainly the wrong direction for the health of greater Louisville communities in the state of Kentucky. These rate increases also fund some projects that do not have any benefit for the great majority of the LG&E and KU ratepayers. A major project now that is impacting Bernheim is the proposed LG&E natural gas pipeline. And in this situation, LG&E is suing Bernheim and multiple other private landowners for condemnation of our land, including a portion of the Cedar Grove Wildlife Corridor. This proposed rate increase seeks to recover the cost for the land acquisition and land acquisitions and the people and residences of this proposed pipeline. If LG&E should succeed in condemning the remaining landowners in Bernheim, and then gain the necessary permits, then LG&E has every intention to come back and propose their future to finance the construction and the operation of this pipeline. This proposed rate increase would fund the LG&E pipeline and would destroy natural lands with federally endangered species. It would infringe upon the rights of private landowners, and more importantly, it would break conservation easements and deed restrictions that are held by the Commonwealth of Kentucky and the federal government's U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Additionally, the proposed pipeline has increased in cost to $75 million, and that's up from $24 million just a few years ago. These pipeline cost projections continue to grow, and while LG&E is asking the ratepayers now to completely shoulder the costs, the proposed LG&E pipeline has been shown in recent court proceedings to mainly benefit only one customer over the next 5 years. We ask that the Public Service Commission to consider that public necessity is not demonstrated by the servicing of only one customer, especially when costs to support the project is put on the burden of the ratepayers. We also request that PSC consider how many other circumstances like this may be tied up within the present, the past, and any future LG&E proposed rate increases. In conclusion, we ask that the Public Service Commission to consider the full range of benefits solar energy transition, solar energy customers and communities, and for the communities and community, consider the full range of negative implications for raising rates on our low-income communities that share a disproportionate burden, and make the necessary adjustments to lessen these impacts. We also ask the PSC to not allow inclusion of the land acquisition cost for the proposed LG&E pipeline, which threatens Bernheim, many private landowners, and natural lands throughout its route, to not allow that this pipeline be tied into the rate increases, and to require projects such as this to be clearly demonstrating of the positive impacts for the majority of the positive impacts for the payers and for public necessities. Again, I'm Andrew Berry. I am the Director of Conservation at Bernheim Arbor Research Forest, located in Claremont, Kentucky. We are an LG&E customer, and my comments today are in reference to case number 2020-00350 and case number 2020-00349. Bernheim is a nonprofit conservation organization which has a 90-year history in the greater Louisville area. We have over 250,000 people that come through our gates every year.
Your time's up.
Bernheim looks at this rate increase issue as one that, of course, affects us.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
No, thank you, Mr. Berry. Appreciate you. Morris Sammons.
I'm here.
Okay, Mr. Sammons.
My name is Morris Sammons. I live at 773 Willow Oak Circle in Lexington. I'm a customer of KU. I'm also a AARP community volunteer, and I'm here to represent the Kentucky population of people who are 50 plus years old. I urge the Kentucky Public Service Commission to deny LG&E and KU requests for a rate increase. That's rate case 2020-00350. The proposed residential increase is expensive, especially during a pandemic. Utility rates are an essential pocketbook issue for people age 50 plus, many of whom struggle to pay utility bills on top of other costs like expensive prescription drugs and other necessities of health and well-being. The PSC should seriously consider if LG&E and KU's request year after year to increase meter or customer charges are fair. Higher and higher customer charges make it impossible to control costs of utility bills. We also urge the PSC to look closely at proposed capital spending and trim where possible. Increased spending proposals by utility companies should only come when it's absolutely necessary. Regarding new electronic meters, we applaud the creative proposal to defer billing for the new meters to 2026. We also support the economic relief SUR credit proposal, which will keep rates lower. Finally, we thank LG&E and KU for staying out of the Regional Transmission Organization. Their decision to exit MISO a year ago spared Bluegrass ratepayers the cost of having to pay to upgrade the grid in faraway states like Minnesota. The new Southeast Energy Imbalance Market proposed contains all of the benefits of wholesale market without added cost. I'd like to thank Commissioner Talina Matthews for her leadership over the years, which has led to the great outcomes for consumers. And lastly, we appreciate the opportunity to comment.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sammons. Next is Mr. Henry Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Henry Jackson. I live at 100 Rain Court, Lexington. I'm a KU customer in the case number 2020-349. I respectfully disagree with the avoided cost calculation in the proposed KU net metering changes for 6 reasons. First, I think there is a wide variety of other factors that ought to be considered in the calculation by the way of a comprehensive cost-benefit analysis, and more particularly described in the National Standard Practice Manual, cost-benefit analysis of distributed energy resources. Second, the method of the avoided cost calculation doesn't justify the stated reason for the application. The net meter customers are being unfairly subsidized by other state ratepayers. The share of net metering as a part of sold KU electricity is minuscule, as well as for the foreseeable future. As a practical matter, if you were to increase the current KU total solar transmission by a factor of, say, 5 times more solar power, it still would be well below the 1% state limit for peak load capacity. The third reason I disagree is because the KU calculation is based solely on their current business model. Given the steady decline of the coal industry and increasingly warmer Kentucky winters and related declining sales, it would make sense to at least examine a transition to a new energy business model, the key word being transition, which is to say, to not immediately drop fossil fuels, but to instead examine the possibilities of making profitable venture in the development, maintenance, and management of distributed energy, and to examine such possibilities prior to further consideration of this application. This dramatic 80% reduction in the value of rooftop solar would permit KU to restrict customer ability to produce their own power and control their own energy costs. The solar industry currently employs 1,400 good-paying jobs in the Commonwealth and has enormous potential for future job growth, as our state only ranks 49th in homes powered by rooftop solar. In a Kentuckians for the Commonwealth 2017 economic study, the potential economic impact of transitioning to a clean energy future was estimated to invest $11 billion, that's billion with a B, to make homes and businesses more energy efficient and create 46,000 more jobs in the state over the next 15 years, while lowering home energy bills by 10%, reducing pollution, and retaining cost savings in the local economy. Maintaining the current pricing of net metering is a critical part of reaching that clean energy future. The proposed price reduction would eliminate the financial incentive for KU customer rooftop solar development. It would undermine the intent of the current law to protect customer choice and add stability to the growing rooftop market. There are 3 additional reasons to maintain a viable rooftop solar industry in the state. First, it would maintain Kentucky's competitiveness, attracting new business relocations where their employees can utilize affordable rooftop solar the same as 30 other net metering friendly states. Second, The solar power contains zero greenhouse gas emissions, essential in the mix of renewable power sources to address the climate crisis. Net metering allows regular people to participate in that energy transition while controlling their own energy costs. Third, rooftop solar power has the capacity to serve as a freestanding, off-the-grid energy source, especially as battery storage capacity continues to improve. This is very useful in power outages and avoided costs in peak power demands, ultimately lowering electrical power prices. The bottom line is the PSC should retain the current net metering rate of compensation and thus grow the rooftop solar industry to prevent it from becoming uneconomical or a monopoly were it to survive at all. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Brianna Frederick.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I have two kids with me, so they might interrupt. My name is Brianna Frederick. I am at 8302 Tolles Lane, Louisville, Kentucky, 40214. And I'm speaking in reference to case number 20-00350. I am, as you can see, a mother of three, and I'm the supporting half, just two here right now, supporting of a very, very, very small solar installation business, started and run by my husband, Josh Frederick, who is out installing solar, why he cannot be here, like most working people. I agree with pretty much everything everyone's saying in these hearings. I'm really grateful for the opportunity for you to hear the public on this issue, which has been fairly unanimously against this rate case being approved. I am also very, very opposed. Sorry.
No, that's perfectly okay, Ms. Frederick. We'll just take your time.
Yes.
Given the circumstances, we may extend your time a few minutes.
We'll see. Though my husband's work is a drop in the pool of energy production in Louisville, as we've heard from others, we're well under 1% in the state. We're not going to reach that anytime soon. His very small amount of work provides for my entire family, and why I'm able to be home with our kids and have a roof over our head. It also provides a really exciting and empowering job for him, where he used to work 9-to-5 kind of jobs that were not very interesting or exciting. This allows him to design and improve his things in his community and be really fulfilled by his work, as well as excite our children who want to be solar installers now, and electricians and other jobs. I think one thing that is left out in these conversations is the youth and the future. I mean, not only a future that's habitable with climate change, but jobs in the future. Electricians and, trade school type jobs, these kinds of things we're in desperate need. I mean, just as a solar installation company, it's hard to find electricians. And our kids, they need a future that they can have good jobs in. We, as others have said, there's a huge amount of interest in solar. My husband is booked up for the remainder of time that we know we have to work. When this, rate case is, if it is approved, when it will take effect and basically kill our business. He's booked up, and there's plenty more that want to have solar after that. And we are going to have to say, no, we're not going to be putting solar on people's homes that then can't pay it off. It's just not economical, and it doesn't make sense. So anyway, I'm also very concerned about the fixed rate increase to mostly our poorer communities, and as everyone else has said much more eloquently than I can right now, being distracted, this is going to have more debilitating effects that it cannot be here and be a part of this conversation. Just like our youth, our poorer communities, they don't even know that this has happened, will not know that this has happened to them. They'll get a bill and it'll be higher, and it's just part of, insult to injury. It's just more and more. So, those are my main reasons. I I'm very opposed. I don't know exactly what me and my family are going to do if this happens. You know, again, we're a very, very small company. It's mainly just my husband and some other part-time workers. And we don't have the ability to transition to commercial solar, which won't be disrupted in the same way as we're so small. We have the ability to expand a lot, provide a lot of great, well-paying jobs to more people in our community, especially those struggling. And we can't do that if we don't know that we have a future in the city.
He's against the rate increase too. Is that?
Yes. About the subject. Anyway, again, in solar is the future regardless of what happens today and what you all decide. We are going to be powering our future this way. I don't want to see Kentucky to be continuously left behind. I come from California originally, where, you know, this is huge and it's not impacting, or we now have a different issue with too much solar in some ways. We are nowhere near that in Kentucky, and we probably won't be in my lifetime, maybe theirs. So I'd like us to be continue to be a part of this growing industry and provide more jobs and keep our small business alive. So I encourage you guys to not approve this as it is, and I really appreciate and thank you for your time and patience with my situation.
Thank you, Ms. Frederick. I can honestly say I've enjoyed your presentation, not only for its comment, but in getting to meet your family. You've got some nice kids. Thank you very much. Mr. Richard Parker. Mr. Parker. Okay, perhaps our last one was number 21, Mr. Richard Parker, but apparently he's no longer on the phone or is not called in. Okay, now there'll be one more of these public hearings or open for public comment by the Public Service Commission, and that will begin at 5 p.m. next Tuesday, April 20th. So anyone who has not been heard but who may be seeing this and care to call in, that is the next time public comment will be received. The hearing itself will begin at 9:00 a.m. on Monday, April 26th, and is scheduled through the 5 days of that week through Friday, April 30th. So anyone who would like to tune in to the Public Service Commission website through YouTube is welcome to see the proceedings or make a public comment before that hearing begins. So if there's nothing else at this time, then this public comment section will now come to a close, and I thank you all very much. And on behalf of all the members of the Public Service Commission, we appreciate your comments and that the time you've devoted to providing your views on this subject. So once again, thank you very much, and good night.